Good morning, everyone. I'm Jennifer Hatt. Fans of Johnny Cash will understand. He's a source of inspiration for me whenever I don't quite know what to say or even how to feel what I'm feeling. I find him a masterful storyteller. That's a fun fact about me. But I'm here to talk a bit about the experience that I've created in Chelsea, Quebec, coming up on August 2nd and 3rd. The Infinite Dance. And for me, this experience is an alignment of many things I've been carrying in my life for as long as I can remember. Um, some of you will know me as a writer because you've seen my name in print or heard about some things that I've written. And I've always earned my living as a writer, but it is just recently that I have come to own uh, the power of the gift that writing is. And this experience, in part, is to explore my own evolution, of course, but also to invite any others who feel called to join to come and play for a couple of days. Um, Writing for me was always an intellectual exercise, a very practical tool that came easy to me and so enabled me to create a very productive life with a minimal effort. Then, and this is not lost on me, 20 years ago almost, July 28th is the actual date, 2005, I had my first divine experience. Uh, I now know it as an awakening. I now feel the sensations I had then as a download. But at the time, with no knowledge of myself as divine, no context with which to understand what was happening, um, I very quickly sank into what I knew, which was I was a messenger. And I made my experience all about someone else and their story, and myself as the gatekeeper of something divine for not me. A powerful metaphor right there. Um, 5 years later, I wrote a book about that, or based on that, someone else's life story as fiction. And then wrote three more in rapid succession after that, desperately seeking something that I knew was there, when in fact, what I was looking for was my own story. And I started writing that about 10 years ago, and I am still working on that. Interestingly enough, I was taking this summer not to travel at all, but just to write. But the call to Chelsea was swift and it was clear. And I chose to trust that. And from that, I booked a trip with no purpose. That purpose came first from me, again, running a pattern of looking for others to create something for me to step into, and having these brilliant women point out to me that perhaps the invitation was for me to create my own. And absolutely, I noticed in my life as I was introduced to the WEL-Systems paradigm about 12 years ago, in moving through that in these conversations, as I evolved from observer to participant to creator, my evolution ramped up exponentially with each step of that. And for the first time, I will be creator in Chelsea of something that embraces not only my WEL-Systems journey, but also that of my journey as a writer. Um, and I am beyond excited at that opportunity and at who else might want to step in with me to do that. Being able to do things has come easy in isolation of being who I am and having um, the joy, the energy, the flow of what I create. Um, Again, in a segmented life, those themselves became segmented. And in fact, it was only in the last year or so when I was aware there was have. I knew of the be and the do. I didn't know about the have, or I didn't know what I knew. And that was my experience in writing my books. Um, at the time I wrote my first book, which was 2010, again, I had I had not encountered the WEL-Systems paradigm at that point. I had no context for what I was carrying other than framing it as someone else's story. And I wrote it as such. And it was a story that I wrote for the first time simply from self, sitting down and writing, no thought, no effort, when I wrote it in the first person from the point of view of someone else. It was it was in Chelsea, and I will talk about why Chelsea is so important to me. I'm a lifelong Nova Scotian for anybody who doesn't know me. I was born in Nova Scotia, have lived here all my life, probably fifth or sixth generation. My people made it across the ocean, but they didn't go far after that. Um, so my first trip to Chelsea was actually almost 3 years ago. It was in Chelsea that I met Louise Lebrun and Sheila Winter Wallace for the first time in person after having spent many marvelous hours on Zoom with them. And it was at Sheila's place that I received my code model coaching certification diploma. And it was my first solo road trip from Nova Scotia to Central Canada. Uh, and I fell in love with the place. What I call Chelsea is really probably the Gatineau region, Ottawa, Gatineau, like Wakefield, all along the river. It's remained a special place ever since, and I've been fortunate to return there several times for experiences in Sheila's marvelous program room. And so to be able to return again as a creator, not only of my own life, but of an experience into which I am excited to step into, um, just feels so aligned and like a next gateway for me in my writing and in my evolution and in my continued journey to hold all of that as me, as energy. Looking at things from a quantum perspective makes the world so very, very easy in some cases. And, you know, I'm mindful that no matter where I go, when people hear that I'm a writer, there is always someone who has a fascination with that. And more often than not, in any crowd I encounter, any place I go, there is somebody who is harboring a story that they long to tell and don't know where to start or feel like they shouldn't or they're not good enough. And metaphor is, of course, a powerful tool in writing any type of story. And as we learn in our paradigm of conversation, metaphor is a powerful tool for lines of inquiry and exploration in life. And I am I am excited for any conversations that begin with writing and evolve into life. I have encountered intense internal resistance to my writing over the years. Um, it looks easy to some folks who watch me do what I do or read what I read or read what I write. But in my experience, I have spent a great deal of time um, fighting myself as a writer, actually enraged at myself because it was my writing that led to my awakening. And how dare I awaken myself from a life that was, good enough? Um, and I've become very aware of how I yearn for the new and the different and the unknown, and yet fear it at the same time. And writing brings me to that very brink. Again, moving from participant, where I used to write, everyone else's story, and I work still today with great joy on other people's manuscripts and ideas. But yet, looking at my own story, looking at my own blank page, waiting for my words, um, there is still resistance. There is still fear. There is still the sense of danger of stepping into the unknown. And the ability for me to move from being caught in that to noticing that and choosing accordingly and not judging that choice, which is sometimes to, yes, walk away. Sometimes it is to stare at the blank page until something comes, mindful of how quickly I would go out of body when I didn't feel the words right away, the panic at words not being at the ready. An old story from newspaper deadline days. Um, Relaxing into it all and just letting it happen. These are some of my experiences, but the greatest one recently for me, leading up to this experience I'm creating in Chelsea, was that I was in Chelsea in April of this year for a brilliant 3-day in-person gathering with very courageous women led by Louise. And it was following that gathering, the day after, navigating for emergence, that I had a day to myself. Um, and I reread the book, Finding Maria, that I had written 15 years ago. And it was then through the new lens that I had, the new, wider, more awakened, some layers shed lens, that I saw, yes, a story of another's life written for another person, but I also saw me in there. I saw the map I had written for my own life moving forward, almost like a trail of breadcrumbs for me, for when I was able and willing to see it. I didn't know what I knew. And in that moment of discovery, I realized how afraid I have been of my writing because of its power to take me to the unknown, because of its power to reveal that which I know but don't know. And for the first time, instead of dismissing it or fighting it, I was grateful for it and excited for what can come next. What else do I know about myself that I don't let myself know? And that's where my next book will come. So my creation in Chelsea and my visit to the area again on the 1st of August is very much part of me writing the book I have intended to finish this year. And again, I am excited for that prospect, but also for the community I may be able to create along the way. Um, Writing, as you've no doubt heard, is often associated with isolation. And, you know, the image of the starving artist freezing in their lonely writer's garret, suffering for the sake of their art and sacrificing for the greatness of the world, it makes for a good story. I will be clear, I am not big on sacrifice or suffering. But I've held that image that somehow that's required of me. And it's a great way to make me highly resistant. Um, that said, it is an individual act in that no one else but me can sit in front of my page or my screen and write the words that come from me. We each have our own journey there for sure. But that does not necessarily require isolation. In fact, writers are gathering in any number of communities, online and in person, and sometimes without words. There are often writers who gather simply to write in each other's presence because the energy created from that exchange of words and from that flow of words is palpable in any room. So I am excited to, for myself, break that pattern of thinking I need to do it all alone and thinking I need to be responsible for anybody I ask to step into a room with me and thinking I need to perform. People see me as a writer, holding that as some kind of demand on what I produce and how I produce it. The freedom in letting go of that and just stepping into the room for 2 days of what else? What now? Um, yeah, I am so looking forward to it and to the whole experience. And if any of this speaks to you at all, I would love to hear from you, either by email or message. Anyway, you'd like to get in touch, I would welcome the contact and conversation. Thank you for listening. And maybe we will see each other in Chelsea. Bye for now.